Good morning, gang. My name's Ray. I'm with Team S.T.E.A.M. and today I'm standing out behind Flash Industrial Painting looking at this 2001 Kenworth W900, and I can already tell today is going to be a hot one. Good morning. I do have my work cut out for me. Very odd. I was pretty impressed. I'm going to do what I always do on these trucks. And that just happens to be my thing, by the way. This paint job's probably 5-6 years old. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. And here he is leaving. It wasn't quite as fun as I was expecting. And that starts right about now. All right, I haven't opened the hood on this one yet, so I don't know what to expect. What it has for fiberglass issues, if any, on the inside of the hood. It's a 2000, so I'm guessing it's got some. I can tell by this that it's had the fender repaired and then repainted, because their paint is chipping off and you can see their fiberglass repair underneath. And you can tell by just how chipped up this paint is versus the other side that some sort of brittle type of enamel was used. And when you have the wrong kind of pencil hardness, when it's too hard, this is what it looks like. It chips out a lot. And that's why you can't have your paint too hard. It has to be somewhat rubberized. And so some of the old polyurethanes work way better than some of the acrylic enamels, and the 2K urethane works better because they stay soft enough. Well, hi, PJ. It's PJ and Felix. As you can see, the clear is starting to come off. Somebody tried to remove the stickers with a pressure washer, and you can see what happens when you get too much heat and too much pressure all at once. This is an original Imron paint job, and they still tore through it. And that's what happens. And that, my friends, is exactly why if you own a trucking company or you run a number of trucks and the time comes to have them washed, you don't want to choose one of your most inept employees to do it. You either want to do it yourself or choose somebody that's not going to get completely up under everything with a pressure washer, because you can tear up quality paint. And when this truck was new, this was quality paint. This was Imron 5000 base clear, and you can see they tore right through it with a pressure washer trying to get the stickers off. And here somebody got into it with a scraper getting the stickers off. That's two different pretty big no-nos when it comes to vinyl. If you have vinyl and you want to remove it, look up stripe eraser. Buy a few different types of stripe eraser, because there are a few different types that do different things, and end up using the one that works best for you. You're better off having more than one anyway, because they get hot so fast. You can swap them out so one doesn't sit and get so hot that it eventually gets egg-shaped. So if you want to remove vinyl, get a stripe eraser. But here you can see where the vinyl was, and their paint on this production run of Kenworths during this little span of years here, up through, I don't know, it was up through 01 and sometime before 05. That they had doors that the paint was just coming off, and this was super common. So that's something we'll be dealing with on this truck as well. And as you can see, the chassis here is corroded and definitely needs some attention. There's almost no paint left on it in some spots, and that's where I come in here this morning. I'm going to go ahead and get the hood opened up, get suited up, get this chassis sandblasted, get it pulled in the shop so we can see what the next step is. Well, gang, that always takes a little longer than I think it's going to, especially with these older chassis, these 2001 models. I don't really know what the difference is. They're both these and the 07s and the ones beyond that, they're an electrically introduced product, right? Like powder coating or whatever product that they've done, it's electrically introduced. But this stuff from the early 2000s was twice as tough. Not twice as durable, it'd go to hell in a hurry, but it's twice as tough to sandblast off as some of the later models. I don't know what the difference is, but man, this stuff is on here. But we got it. And now it's well into the afternoon and hot as hell. Look how full of rocks and dirt and debris those are. I've just been lucky so far that none of that has made its way up to my eyeballs yet. Well, here's old shop foreman Kevin. Hey, buddy. What are you doing? you know we're getting ready to start another project, so you know what you got to do. Keeping us in line. That's a job all on its own. Well, let's go ahead and get this guy pulled in. Okay, so here it is first thing the next morning, and a couple of members of the crew are going to come through the door here about any minute. And the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and take this truck apart. And then the next thing we're going to do, of course, is wipe it down with thinner, as we always do, and we will especially do with this one because, again, the chances are through the roof when you see the lightening of the clear. See how it's just kind of ghosted now? Well, that's because it's almost broken all the way through. That would tempt any owner into getting out their buffing compound. Same with this. I mean, that makes a person that doesn't realize thinks that they can make this, which is just base coat now, look like this. And that's impossible. So the chances are good that this truck has been buffed at one point. So of course we're going to go ahead and wipe it down with thinner. And another thing I was noticing is the repairs on this are possibly more extensive than I thought. I see a ton of cracking that starts down here. And I don't know if I'll be able to get it on video, but this is a band of cracks. And through my little screen here, I can't tell if I'm getting this or not, but this is a whole band of cracks. And when I get the reflection off the side of the hood, I can tell that there is a band of old bodywork right here. So I'm thinking that this was cracked. Somebody filled this in with bodywork, and then either the truck hit something again in its lifetime, or just the bouncing of the fenders or wear and tear over time, who knows, made it crack again. So what I'm gathering is I'm going to need to tear into that and see what's what. And also that's right where my divider's got to go. Remember, this truck has to be white with blue fenders, and I can tell by their old stripe. See, their old stripe starts as a point and goes back, and it's 2 3-inch stripes that both go like this, and then they come down to a point. Well, look at this bottom one. The bottom part of this stripe, if you follow my finger, goes along a new paint line. And this is a sticker like from where they bought the truck. And you can tell by that ragged edge that it was not prepped. You can see all that gloss right up to the edge of the new paint, and it was not prepped. That doesn't mean that none of this has been prepped. That might have been one of those, it looks like it was double stick tape in 2 spots. It was probably one of those little plaques. And those are sometimes hard to get scratched all the way up underneath. But I'm not trying to excuse anybody's work because I see it again here. And I see it down here where this is nice and shiny. You know, so I'm going to have to wipe out that edge and see how the edge of my sanding looks. And I can tell whether or not the paint is connected just by what's left behind when I sand something like that. I can tell whether or not it's got gloss behind it. So I've got to conduct those tests and see just how far down it goes. And I got to get down in here and start digging at this and see exactly what we got here, because I'm going to have to fix that too. And then back here on this truck, it's as beat as a quarter-century old truck with over 2 million miles on it should be. And it's good and beat. I mean, there's not really 1 square centimeter of it that's not dented. And some of it is dented deep. Like that right there. Just on that side of that bar right there. That's, 3/4 of an inch deep at least. At its deepest point. And there's some just big, deep dents around it. And again, not shocking for a truck that's this old and's got this many miles. But, you know, it's gonna need the complete overhaul. You know, up here on the front, I can see right here, and I can tell by the white that's in there and by how thick and deep these cracks are that this was previously cracked and it wasn't repaired correctly. They just put bodywork in there, and then the bodywork cracked. So I need to dig that out and put an inlay style repair in there, and then do bodywork over that. And then the future owner, this is going to an auction. It's not even their truck really. But the future owner will never have to worry about that popping out again. All right, now we got this all taken apart. The boys got it all wiped down with thinner, thoroughly wiped down. Now we're completely ready to begin masking and take the following steps. And among them, what I'm noticing here, again, here's your paint line from here down. But right in here, this really comes up like a good 1/8 of an inch. This is really built up right here. You can see that. Look at that edge. And that goes from here to, I don't know, up in here somewhere. Oh, clear up to here. You can see it's dug in clear up there. Look at that. And here it's kind of dug in. We'll have to address that. But down here it's actually built up. So I need to actually do some pretty good sanding on this, get into this and find out what this is and why it might be there, and then fill that in. Because somebody got in there with a DA and got a little overzealous and sanded it too deep when they were prepping this. At least I know that it got somewhat prepped, but right here where it's peeled up, you can see it's glossy underneath. So even if they did take after it with DAs, somebody didn't do 100% of their scratching, because you can see it. It's got the old gloss right there, and that's why that came up. And that's why this is also sketchy. So remember, I'm two-toning this. I've got to run a line down the fender. So I'm going to have to sand all the way through every single thing they've done here just to get an idea of what we've got, because I need to connect mine to good stuff. Well, there's Jeffrey. Hi, buddy. I know. What a good boy. We're seeing him in the shop more and more all the time. I know. He's pretty good. Pet Shelter had him a long time for some reason. He's got a great personality. I don't know why anybody wouldn't have wanted him. I know.
Splice Originals.
Alright, I'm going to get down this camera for a minute, down from the perch I had it on there. You can see what's happened here. This line is only cut off so sharp because that's the way it was before, but this is actually a big fiberglass repair, and it looks fairly well done. Pretty shocking to see an inlay style repair at all, let alone one that's been done what seems to be pretty correctly. So I don't really have a problem with what's happened here. Where they went astray was they put 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in some spots, maybe even more than 1/4 of an inch of bodywork. They really let it fill this up, and that's what cracked. At some point this went through some additional trauma, probably hit another deer or went through another incident or something. Could have even been snowpack or ice pack underneath in the wintertime. Could have been something. Stress cracked their bodywork, but their repair has held up, and good repairs do. And I've noticed that it's the same down here. This is a good sized repair that they just put too much bodywork or inferior bodywork and inferior products on top of. And like in here, you can see it was prepped what looks like fairly correctly. I can't guarantee what grit was used, but it was prepped. And they used matting instead of cloth, and they did a good job. You don't see that very often. Okay, now we're on to the step where we're doing body work and the guys are scratching all the rivets and sanding whatever they can around what I'm doing. At this point, I'm ready for glazing. I'm completely ready for glazing. I've got all my initial body work done and completed, and I've got everything sanded. All my big deep scratches out and around the body work have all been sanded. Everything's all ready for glazing at this point. But that's not what I'm going to do today. I've got a different plan for today, and it doesn't involve this. As you can see, we're already well into the afternoon. I went ahead and turned the crew loose at noon, even though it's a Thursday, because of two reasons. When it gets to this time of year, if it's 90 plus degrees in the shop by the time we're well into the afternoon, a lot of times I will have them knock off early. I don't. Either I'm doing chores or I'm in the shop, but I work all day every day. There's just so much to be done. I just can't abide taking. I do take time off. We go kayak and we do things. I even relax and put ice on certain hurting parts for certain time periods, 15 minutes at a time throughout the day. I do self-care like you're supposed to, but when it comes to these hot afternoons, I just plow through. It's 95 right now in the shop, and I turn them loose, but not only because of that, but also because tonight it's the 6th or something, 7th of August, and tonight in Casper, Wyoming, Weird Al Yankovic's doing a show. And I grew up with Weird Al. I absolutely grew. When I was a very young kid, I had his very first album or cassette, and his first 2 or 3 I got as soon as they came out, and I was a huge Weird Al fan. And so is Ashley, and so is Brent, and so is Kit. Everybody's just a big Weird Al fan, and they have been their entire lives too. And so anyway, when we found out he was playing Casper, I told him, just order tickets, get the best tickets you can, and they're on me. And so we got tickets for him. And this was a month or 2 ago when they first went on sale. And at this point, the time has come for them to go see the show. And I went ahead and let them off early today and pushed another couple $100 their way to pay for a hotel room and gas and food, and just kind of complete the deal and send them out the door. So for the rest of the day here, I'm gonna ignore this. This doesn't need to be done till tomorrow. I'm gonna go ahead and get these fenders in wet sanding primer today. This fender, it doesn't have a whole lot wrong with it, but I also haven't even started on it. This one here has a whole lot wrong with it, but I'm basically done with it, except for glazing. I'm done with all the initial body work. I shouldn't say done with the fender. I'm done with all the initial body work. Now I can go ahead and get everything all glazed up, get that all sanded, get everything sanded and scratched all the way around, and get these fenders in wet sanding primer today. That really is the priority at this point. So now that I've blown this off, you can have a look at what still needs scratched and what doesn't. You see this is just nice and evenly sanded. Up here, of course it's not. I'm not really looking to prime any of that today. I just need to get this corner because this is so very much part of the corner. I don't have any choice. So I'm gonna be getting that today. I'm gonna be getting this today. You can see I still need to scratch around these. You can see some traces that still need scratched. See the shininess around this. I only got so close. You need to get in there with the scratch pad and actually get right up to it. Around here, in here, even in this little corner, you know. So there's stuff like that I got to get on both sides. I got to get in there with a scratch pad, get that finished out, get it blown off again, check it again, scratch it again if need be, blown off again, all that stuff. And then I'm going to go ahead and get some wet sanding primer on it here this afternoon. Well, welcome back, gang. It's first thing here the next morning, and I'm just chatting with Jeffrey outside here. And inside the shop. And here's this guy, looking exactly how I left it yesterday. Now, the first step I'm going to take this morning, as you probably would expect, is I'm going to walk around this with some glazing. I'm going to go ahead and fill all the chips and cracks, anything I can find with glazing. And then as soon as I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and get the fenders sanded down. And as soon as I'm done with that, I'm going to get them an epoxy primer. Then I'll come back up front here, wipe down the fenders with a tack rag, fix any little thing that needs to be, anything I can find, usually nothing, but if there is something, that'd be the time to do it. And then go ahead and get them in blue paint. That's the goal anyway. We'll see how it goes. Well, okay, gang, looks like enough time has passed. I'm gonna go ahead and mix up some blue paint, get these fenders shot. Okay, so as you saw, this got finished up. Here it is first thing the next morning. Now I'm going to look it over, make sure that there's no deal breakers. And if there is no deal breakers, I'm going to go ahead and do what I always do, which of course is to go ahead and run a line of vinyl tape to go ahead and separate the fender from the rest of the hood on both sides. And then the boys will come in, they'll go ahead, they'll get it all masked up. Once these fenders are masked up, then today I'm going to go ahead and finish up this bodywork and glazing. Normally, when we're at this stage on one of these trucks, that's already been done. That's already in primer. What I'm supposed to be doing this afternoon is sanding down the primer and going from there. But we ended up getting a day behind here because of weather and other events going on. No big deal. No big deal to anybody. The owners just call us when you're done, you know. So there is no pressure around here most times. Once in a while, you get one in from out of town, and you don't want them to have to wait too long. But for the most part, we kind of keep it as stress-free as we can, considering, you know, the occupation. So anyway, so today, instead of doing sanding primer and putting it in white, I'm going to be finishing a little bit of body work on the door here and a few little dings here. I'll probably do those in glazing. Then I'll finish up all the glazing on the entire truck, and then we'll get it all ready and get it all in high build epoxy primer. And once that's done, I'll go ahead and get this chassis shot in primer. So by the end of the day, the truck is going to have the fenders masked up, the cab, the rest of the hood, the sides of the cab and the sides of the hood in high build epoxy. And then we're gonna have black epoxy primer on the chassis. 2 to 3 coats. Well, all right, gang, now that that's accomplished, I'd imagine whoever's working today will come through the door here about any minute. We'll go ahead and get these fenders masked up and get this day underway. Well, all right, gang, as you can see, Kittrick and I got the fenders masked up. We have 2 of our people under the weather today. Kittrick came in, so I did the other fender. And now we're going to go ahead and embark on the rest of this. He'll be sanding and scratching and scratching and sanding while I'm scratching out some body work and sanding that as well. Well, as you can see, we're burning through it here. Getting all my glazing on, getting everything sanded. Won't be long here. Get it all blown off, have a look at it, scratch anything that needs it, mix up some wet sanding primer, get that on here, leave it for about 10-15 minutes, go take a break. Once that gets what I would consider dust free, then I can come in here, clean up all this mess, blow off this chassis, remove some of the remaining little rust pieces with a air hammer, get it all ready and get it in primer here yet today. Okay gang, you just watched me prime the cab and hood in high build epoxy primer. Now I got a big mess to clean up. As you can see, just stuff everywhere. I've already blown part of the chassis off, most of the chassis off, and moved the stuff around when I did, and I blew off the floor and stuff around it. So it's not as big a mess as it probably normally is at this phase, at this juncture in the project, but I do have to clean up a lot of stuff, get a lot of stuff picked up, get all these boards off of here, get everything all ready, finish getting everything blown off. And at that point, once it's all cleaned up, blown off, and ready to go, I'll go ahead and mix up some black epoxy primer, and I'll put 2 to 3 coats on it. Well, good morning. As you saw yesterday, I went ahead and got the wet sanding primer or the high build epoxy primer on everything, and I went ahead and primed the chassis in 3 coats. Now it's all ready to go. And now today we're going to go ahead and get all this high build epoxy primer sanded down, get everything 100% ready to go, get everything else scratched and sanded. We haven't done anything to the very top of the roof yet. We'll get all that ready to go. And after that, I'll go ahead and get the cab and hood in white primer. And then after that, sometime today, I'm going to go ahead and get the cab, hood, and chassis painted as well. Well, we got some scratching well underway. Getting this guy all abraded. Well, all right, gang. Boys and I finished sanding everything, scratching everything, getting everything 100% ready, and I turned them loose. Then I walk around it one more time to blow it off and take one more good look, because you can never do that too many times, it seems like. And I did find some stuff, and I'll show you what I found. This isn't uncommon to find stuff. This is why I look it over a million times. And this is also the advantage of this particular primer. The undercoat is a different color. See the part that we didn't get to sanding too much on? Look how dark that is. Look as soon as we got to sanding on it. So you can see the difference. You can see things left behind. So look at those chips. Look at that chip. Up here we got a few more chips. Right up in here. Right here we got a little bitty slice, something in the paint. You know, those are only going to take a few minutes to fix in glazing, but they would show up in the gloss. They don't necessarily ruin a paint job on a work truck. It's not a show truck, it's a work truck, but that's pretty big for around here. We try not to let too many things like that slide. There's sometimes on put together day, I'll be walking around it and I'll see a little spot, kind of like one of those or 2 of those or whatever, that didn't get got, and that does happen. But I don't look at stuff like that necessarily as a deal breaker on a work truck. If you've seen very many of my videos, you know that we do try very hard to keep the standards as high as possible. But once in a while, something like that does slip through. But this is why we look it over 50 times, so I can find stuff like that. And the funny thing is, while I was looking it over, I also found something maybe a little more significant. Can you see it? It's on this panel right there. Look at that spot. See how precise that spot is? Something like that will at least draw my attention. And then I go rub my hand over it and I realize, oh, that's a ding. There's a ding in this. Somehow it had gotten by us and none of us ever spotted it. But I see it because of the wet sanding primer or the high build epoxy primer. So it does have its advantages, and going around your project 50 times also has its advantages. So, you know, sometimes I feel like I'm wasting my time, and times when I see stuff like this and I catch them, it's like, well, it's a good thing, because if it got by me, I would hate to see that ding in that unput together day. Luckily, it's just on a little panel. What I would do is I would just mask it from here up, and I would just fix the dent and reshoot the panel. But I don't want to do that crap on put together day. You have to mask off the black chassis back behind it and all that stuff, throw a bunch of sheets everywhere. I don't feel like messing with all that stuff. On put together day, I want to put it together and get out of here. So, you know, I'm going to take care of that right now for sure. And so you can see here how this looks after the fact. This has been sanded in 220. I'll give this another quick once over. But now those are gone. This had that little bitty ding right there. Here was that ding. Much more substantial looking now that I've got filler in it. And I didn't knock this flat with a DA. That's just not, a DA doesn't work to do body work by and large. So at this point, went ahead and got that all re-glazed and sanded down. You can see how that's a nice smooth transition now. But still, that's a lot bigger ding than it initially looked like it would be. I don't really know how that got by us, but it didn't in the end. This up here, while I was busy looking for stuff, I noticed this one needed re-glaze, so I did that. While I was busy sanding these little spots here on the side that I reglazed, as you can see now they're filled with glazing. Once I got to sanding on it, I realized that it was still kind of uneven. This was some pretty extreme body work that took place in here. The entire corner was missing. The original surface of the entire corner was completely displaced and replaced. So that's pretty major body work. And so I could feel a few inconsistencies in there. So I just took and resanded the whole thing down nice and flat, carefully going over spots and going over with my hand. That's just what you do when you're at this final stage right here. And at this point, I can finish blowing everything off, I think, and look it over one more time and deal with anything I find along the way. And then go ahead and, again, look to get some white primer on. Well, all right, I think I've walked around it enough times. I think I've found about everything. I've crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's. Now I'm ready to go ahead and get some primer on it. I've even blown it off. I haven't tacked it off yet. And that brings me to another subject. When you see my videos, almost every single time, you get to see the high speed of me running around priming. You know, I'll start on this side generally, right? And I work my way around the back, and you'll just get to see me just running around priming everything. Those are edited, heavily edited, because of course I'm priming, but when it comes to priming, you have to tack everything off just before you prime. So when you've got your tack rag and you're getting ready to prime your truck or your boat or your Jeep or whatever it is you're painting, keep that in mind. The tacking off that you do before you prime is much different than the tacking off you do before you paint. Before you prime, which is where we're at right now, you have to do one panel at a time, basically. So what I'm going to do is you're going to see me, and I'm not going to edit it. I'm not going to edit this one out. I always film the whole thing, but when I go to edit the videos down, oftentimes I'll start with 3 or 4 hours of footage and get it edited down to the 36 minute to an hour range that I normally have a video in. So there's a lot of editing that goes on, and I'll almost always take this part out because it just takes time. And it's kind of going to be boring to watch. You're going to find out that this is kind of boring to watch, watching me run around on the other side of the truck and then back around here. Then I'll disappear for a few seconds over there. Then you'll see me peek up top for just a second. It's going to be kind of boring, but I'm going to leave it unedited this time so you can see exactly what it's like to prime one of these trucks. That you have to go around, you have to tack off the roof, then prime the roof. Then get down and tack off this whole side and then prime this side. And the way I do it is I'll tack this side off, then tack the other side off and prime the other side, leaving the back. And now I've primed out to here and I've primed out to here on the other side, which means that a ghost of primer has gone out across this twice now, plus all the initial dust that's still on it. Yes, I did blow it off, but I haven't tacked it off yet. So there's still that fine dust on it. Now it's covered in overspray. But that primer overspray dries the second it gets airborne almost. It's some of the fastest drying stuff you'll ever be around. So all it is just basically overspray that's on there that can easily be wiped off. So that's why I go about doing it that way. I'll do this, I'll tack off this side, prime this side, tack off the other side, prime that side. Then I'll come and tack off the entire back. Now that it's all covered with overspray and all that stuff, I'll go ahead and tack the whole thing off, get it good and clean, and then go ahead and prime it. you'll watch when I go to prime it, when I'm priming the back, and that's the last thing I'm doing on the cab, when I come out here, I won't come all the way out to here with my gun. You won't see a bunch of overspray shoot down the side of the truck because that's already primed. And that primer's drying fast. You don't want to send a bunch of overspray over the top of it. It'll stick to the outside and it'll look like dirt in your paint. So with this particular fast drying primer, prime this side, prime that side, tack off the back. Now when I prime the sides, I'm gonna prime clear around the corner, clear over into here. That way, when I go to do the back, I'll tack it all off and I'll just prime out to where I primed, not out past the edge. I'll stop right where I primed. That way I'm not going out past the edge and I'm not shooting overspray down the side of the truck. Then right after that, right after the cab and hood, the next thing I always do, after the cab, the next thing I always do is the hood. And what you'll see me do is I'll move the camera up here, and then you'll see me come over here and tack off, same kind of thing. You'll see me tack off the side and shoot the side. Then you'll see me tack off the other side and shoot the other side. Then you'll see me tack off the center part and shoot it without putting a bunch of overspray down the sides. And that's what it takes to actually prime one of these. The edited version you always get to see, that's not how it actually goes. But I'm gonna leave it alone this time so you can see. Well, all right, gang, got her all primed, primer's cured out. Now it's time to go ahead and get some white paint on it. And you'll learn the difference here between getting something tacked off, running a tack rag over something that's about to be primed, versus running a tack rag over something that's about to be painted. If it's about to be primed and you have a quick dry primer like I do, as you saw, you need to basically tack off the panel you're working on, prime it, move to the next panel, tack it off, prime it, but you can't do that when you're painting. Because the minute you start painting, for instance, I'll start on the roof, and all the overspray that comes down the sides of the truck from the roof is going to be sticky. And that's part of the reason you got to stay right with it and not have dry spray and these other reasons, but also it's sticky. You touch that with a tack rag and your tack rag's going to stick in it. It's going to basically leave an impression in it and all in all just ruin your paint job instantly. The second you touch that with a tack rag, you've ruined your paint job. So before you've even moved it. So that's why you're going to tack the whole thing off all at once, front to back, before you paint. A panel at a time before you prime, and the whole dang thing at once before you paint. However, I'll be editing that part out of the video because you've already seen me tack this thing off one panel at a time. When I tell you I'm going to tack it off front to back, you get an idea what I'm talking about. I don't think I need to show it. It's just going to add more length to the video that, you know, that isn't going to be very exciting. So I'm not going to put that part in, but just take my word for it. I'm going to tack this off from front to back, and then I'm going to go ahead and get it painted. Well, good morning, gang. As you saw, I got this in paint yesterday. It's first thing the next morning, and I've already walked around it and had a look. It looks like it turned out pretty good. So first thing I'm going to do, as I do on all these trucks, is I'm going to go ahead and remove the masking on the fenders, see how that all came out, see if anybody's paint comes up underneath or anything like that, any surprises. And if there are no surprises, then we'll go ahead and start stacking up parts in here and taking off the rest of the masking and putting this truck back together. Well, all right, gang. Another one down. Let's go ahead and walk around it and have a look. All right, here we have a 2001 Kenworth W900. Here's how the passenger side chassis turned out at the front. And here's how the driver's side chassis at the front turned out. Now, when this guy showed up, it had clear coat coming off the hood everywhere, because this one was solid blue, and it had the clear coat coming off everywhere, and it had significant fender damage in multiple places that had been repaired, and it had been repaired fairly well, but it hadn't been finished out quite as good as it should have. So it did crack and it did become vulnerable. But I went ahead and stripped all that old bodywork out of there, fixed everything, redid some glass where it needed to be, redid the bodywork entirely, and now, as you can tell, there is no indicator whatsoever. This used to be all bulged up in here. All this was bulged up like 1/8 of an inch. As you can see in the light, it's not bulged up at all. And the doors on this one had a few dings. The back was beat up significantly, but then, you know, it's a 2001, so 24-year-old truck, and it's seen over 2 million miles. So, of course, the back was beat up. Got it nice and straight, as you can see. It looks basically brand new. Chassis was in terrible shape. Sandblasted it. 2 coats primer. 2 coats of paint. All the details have been gotten. Even the hubs. All sides of the driveline. Again, back looks new. And now this guy's in great shape. And ready to go to the auction with the rest of them. It ought to do well there. Well, we're still working on that late 70s F-250. We've got another semi showing up today or tomorrow. And I'm doing gutters on my house. I'm doing skirting. Probably 2/3 of the skirting, or at least 1/3 of the skirting on my house is going to be replaced. And a bunch of the decking on my front deck is also going to be replaced. So these are all things that are all happening simultaneously around here. So no rest for the wicked as usual. Hey, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. That's going to go ahead and help me grow my channel. And if you want to see more of what goes on around here, check us out at Facebook at Flash Industrial Painting. And if you want to see more projects like this, or domestic auto body, or gardening, or art, or carpentry, or even dirt work, or any of the many, many things we do around here, you might as well just go ahead and hit the subscribe button while you're at it, because, you know, we always got something going on. We'll see you guys around.